Welcome to the Health and Education Committee for January, our first meeting of 2014. First order of business is to approve the minutes, and I need a motion to do that.
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Cook, and a second. Mr. Phillips, thank you so much. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And opposed, of course, there is none. First order of business, I believe, here is the community care report, and it's on your iPad, and looks like to me, to quote the report, we have no major issues and finances are in good shape. And Ms. Cook, you're on the committee. I assume that is absolutely accurate.
That's right.
Okay.
We're doing well.
All right.
The addition has really meant a lot to us.
The addition is completed, isn't it? And we were out there earlier, and it is, of course, beautiful and much more functional. Saves a lot of steps. Mayor, anything to add on community care?
Things are doing very well there.
All right, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Need a motion to approve the community care report.
So move.
Commissioner Soriano, thank you. A second?
Second.
Mr. Turner, thank you. All in favor, or if there's no discussion, please say aye.
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 And opposed, of course, there is none. Next order of business, Ms. Garrett is with us from the Health Department, and she brought in a lot of reports.
A lot of information to catch you guys up on. Thank you. The first is just my monthly usual report, if you'd like to review that. That's this one. And this is December 2013. We always do a month behind. And I think the patient encounter numbers that are tracked through this report show, again, increasing in Smyrna. And we had some decreases in our women's health and men's health because of, if y'all remember, throughout the year we had several of our medical providers on family medical leave and different issues, so we were without clinicians for the better part of a half of a year. So that's why we saw some decrease in those. The state added some positions in our breastfeeding awareness and advocacy program. So you can see we got an increase of 1.5 FTE in employees there, and you can see it in the encounter numbers. They've increased quite a bit. That's just reaching out to women who are breastfeeding or would like to breastfeed or learn more about it.
I know you mentioned in the paper about there was some concern about the flu vaccine supply. Are we still really concerned about where we are with that? Is there any plans to get more, or what?
We have to order that in, you have to, it's not even called order, it's called reserve your supply in March. So we kind of have to guesstimate where we're going to be. And there was a little bit higher demand than what we had ordered for this year. Because last year, it wasn't quite as high. So it's really kind of a difficult thing to maneuver. So we are out of flu vaccine at the health department. There are still some facilities in the county that have plenty of flu vaccine. I know that I looked on flufinder.gov, and you can look and see, and they'll tell you. And yesterday I looked, and there were 19 places reporting that they still had. So there's still flu vaccine out there to be had. We just are out of our supply at the health departments, both in
But it's
Murfreesboro and Smyrna.
flufinder.gov. I had a couple
Yes.
people ask me about that article, and so I just want to make sure they knew there's still flu vaccines are available. They're
Yeah,
just
I
at
asked
different
them to
places.
post that in the, I gave them that link, but
Yeah.
they said that they're leery about posting links to
Sure.
things, and so they didn't put it in there. But
Okay.
yeah, I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah,
That's
I
a
just
really
wanted
good
to make
point.
sure. I know it's still
Yes, there are still
running
some.
rampant, so I want to make sure people know.
Exactly, and it's
vaccinated.
not too late
Yeah.
to get your vaccine. Just go
Okay.
get it as quickly as you can.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for bringing that up. I appreciate it.
Probably fair to say that if you're going to ever get a flu shot, this would be the year. This seems to be a very bad strain of the flu.
We're seeing definitely some unusual turns in flu deaths that we haven't seen. We do usually, unfortunately, see flu deaths every year, but we are seeing some in younger and even middle-aged, healthy people. So I think it's always been my recommendation every year for you to get the flu shot and get it as soon as you can and takes about 2 weeks to become fully effective in your system, and you do need it every year. Some people think, oh, I got one of those a couple of years ago, but it is a different strand. They formulate it on what's been seen in the other hemisphere of the earth, of the world, and so when it comes back to us, that's the best guess of what we can of what strands are going to be in there. There are 3 strands covered in this flu vaccine this year, one of them being H1N1, that is covered when you get your vaccination. So.
Any other questions on the report? She has some amendments I think she wants some action on, but any questions on the actual Health Department report? If not, I'd like a motion to approve her report.
Motion to approve the report.
Mr. Turner, thank you. A second?
Second. Okay.
I think Ms. Cook beat you to it there, okay? If there's no further discussion, all in favor of approving the report, please say aye.
Aye.
And opposed, there is none. Garrett, just take us where you want us to go.
Okay. Well, one other question about the report. I looked back in our files, this tradition of how this report looks, and it looks like it's been the same since, the early 80s, and from all our files, meaning showing you exactly the same data collected. We just do so much more than necessarily is reported in this report. I'm thinking about trying to revamp it, just to show like classes that we do and community outreach projects that we do and things like that on the report. Would there be any issue with trying to revamp it and make it more representative of today's services and things like that? Well, I was, just kind of doing like a rough draft to tie it back to our mission, which is to protect, promote, and improve the health of the citizens of Rutherford County, and just kind of showing you what programs we're doing to tie back to that mission statement and why we're doing them. It would still have this report, it would just look, this data, it just look different.
That looks good, yeah.
I think it's safe to say that we would appreciate
Sure.
additional information.
Okay.
No
I'm
problem.
I've got a committee and we're kind of working on how we can bring you the best information. So it may be a couple of months before we get it, but I just wanted to make sure y'all are okay with that or what. Okay. Okay, the first amendment that Ms. Nolan has helped me put together is we have a contract that includes positions and salaries and benefits that you guys don't pay anything for. The state reimburses every penny of it. The state has added a position to that contract, a licensed practical nurse, a LPN, that was going to help us expand services even more in Smyrna. And the state also added, not on this contract, but they also added a registered dietitian to the Smyrna staff. So they're really trying to build up the staff, which we need now that we have that beautiful building. So this amendment is just to put that into the contract. It is at no cost to the county. It's just straightening up the budget so it reads exactly what the contract is. And so that's what this first one is. It's
You're speaking now of the Health Department programs?
yes.
Okay.
This should be the first one in your packet.
Yes.
Yeah.
The original, what we're doing is increasing the budget by $108,000, and that's state money, state-funded money.
Yes, that's exactly right. That's exactly right.
Sure like spending state money versus.
Well, good, we get to do it a lot in these amendments.
I think we all join you in that.
Did we want to take them separate?
Whatever you'd like.
Yeah, for your record, does it matter? Okay, then I'll go on through to
Okay.
the next one, if that's
Fine.
right. Okay. And the second one is really great news. So every year, the state legislature receives funds from the tobacco settlement. And what that is usually they use it to balance budgets and, do projects like that. They actually decided with the guidance from the governor and our commissioner to give funds to the local health departments to try to come up with some smoking targeted programs to prevent tobacco use in middle schools, to prevent secondhand exposure, and to work with pregnant women who are smoking. So those are our 3 target areas. We had to submit a plan of what we would like to do, and based on our population size and the number of smokers we have in our community, we were given one of the largest amounts, which is $103,668. And that's the second amendment, where we will receive a check from the state to utilize to get these programs up and going. It's a 3-year process. The first year, if we do good, then they'll give us another $103,000. If we show the needle moving and less people smoking and exposures and things like that, then we're going to, and using tobacco in general, then we'll get a second year's funding, and then as well a 3rd year. So this is the first time they've ever given anything in this specific realm to come back to actually fight against the tobacco.
How do they calculate the smokers?
It's, there's 2 or 3 different reports that come out. There's the Robert Wood Johnson report, where they have regulations that they check on 2 things. Pregnant women who smoke, that's reported, self-reported, and a lot of this data is self-reported. And we do have a lower number than a lot of counties. Ours was 12% of pregnant, we're working on pregnant women, so those are the stats I know right off the top of my head, but we had 12% of pregnant women that were smoking. But some counties like Stewart County were reporting in the high 40s. 40% that were smoking. So, but then yet there were very small counties. So there was a multi-tiered process. They based it on population and then the number of statistical data that they had of smoking. And you could choose one of those 3 topics to be your first year. Since ours, the highest area for us was pregnancy, we chose that. We have of the 3 categories, secondhand smoke and the data that we have, and middle schoolers that are starting smoking. We had lower numbers in those than we did with the pregnant women. So that's why the county health department decided to go with that as their first
I'm curious,
plan.
Mr. Garrett, because I know you're actively involved and you've got counselors and people that are there all the time at the health department. Are there people pregnant women that would like to quit smoking? I'm sure there are. Okay, they would like to quit smoking. They know it's dangerous, and so you're helping them reach that goal. Okay, but are there people out there that really are not aware of the damage? Are there still people that don't know? Do you think?
To some degree, and some they're told things like if they try to quit, they might lose their baby, or they could cause withdrawal and have problem. So there's a lot of misinformation. I think they know it's not good, and I think that message is pretty clear out there. We just need to give them some steps on how. And this program that we're going to work with MTSU, it was developed at MTSU, and it's actually a national award-winning program called Smart Moms. And we will work with them through a 10-step counseling process that will help them through all those commonly asked questions like, there's reasons that women smoke. I'll gain weight, or if I don't smoke, I could lose the baby. Those were all misnomers that we have to kind of fight against and educate them that that's not true, and that's not and the second year, this program continues to expand over the 3 years, but we add in the other causes of year 2 and year 3. So after year 1, we're going to focus on health department patients. Year 2, we're going to go out to the public private OBGYNs and ask them to come in for training and teach other doctors how they can do this Smart Mom program in their offices. And they can get continuing education for it. So it's a benefit for them, plus it's a really quick, it's about 15 minutes of time that you counsel, and you give like little assignments that they can work on during those till the next visit. So it's been shown nationally, like I said, it won awards, it's been shown to show a decrease. We actually did it for a few months in Rutherford County. There was a grant to do it over the whole state, but we never got to focus just on Rutherford County, and now the entire funds will be going into just Rutherford County. MTSU is not partnering with any other county. They're only going to partner with us. So they've given them resources, but we're going to be the partner with them. So I'm excited about that 103. That's no cost to the county. I just wanted to let you know that we were awarded that, and that you'll be hearing that in my reports about where we are and what we're doing. But as soon as this gets through the process, with you guys, then they'll be cutting us a check for that.
Good luck. 12%?
Yes.
It'd be kind of hard to reduce that, wouldn't it?
Yeah, well, it would be nice just to reduce it by 2% would make a huge impact. Some of the research that I did, when women smoke, they tend to have babies preterm. Preterm babies tend to have more health issues. So just the cost saving from just the hospitalization is in the millions of dollars, even if we just bring it down 2%.
Cool.
So it makes a huge difference, just a little bit will make a huge difference.
Good performance. 12% sounds like pretty good performance anyway, but
Yeah.
It is,
It-
it
it's-
is.
it's
Across
hard.
the state, we're one of the best.
it's harder to improve on good performance than it is on 40% that
Right.
Stewart County may be having, so.
Right.
But good luck with that. That's
Yeah.
going to take quite an effort to get that down.
It is, it is. The staff's very excited though, because we know this program works, and now we have the funding to make it work. You know, they'll be given great resources, there'll be little incentives for the moms to participate, so we're hopeful.
You know, we've seen you work miracles, I think, the last few years, and
Well,
if
thank
anybody
you.
can do it, you can do it.
Well
Well,
put.
thank you.
Further questions on the second grant that she's addressed here? If not, Ms. Garrett, go ahead with number 3.
Okay, so the third amendment that I have in front of you guys is a contract agreement between the county and the state. And the county pays $128,375, always has. It's appropriation that goes into the state every year. It's already been budgeted, y'all have already been paying it. And you pay it in quarters, and every quarter you pay $32,094. Well, the health department is in desperate need of new phones. And so the state has said with savings and budgets that we have done over the years. So as this goes in every year, it goes into my operating budget that the state gives to us. $5.2 million is our operating budget. And the final figures after the last year was that we ended up having $32,094 savings. So $32,000 that the county sent in, but the state didn't use. We didn't have to use it. We managed well, and we ended up with savings. Again, one of the best in the state with those savings. You know, some people have like $100 saving or $1,000 saving, but we did really good, and we had the $32,094. So the state said that they would be willing to that $32,000 that we have in savings, just let you not make that last payment of the year. So this last payment of $32,094 would not have to be sent in. But in return, they ask that you use the money for the funds for the health department. And like I said, I think I talked to y'all a few months ago about our great customer service reports that we got and how we were in like the 95% on most of it. But the number one complaint I hear from patients is they have a really hard time getting through, or just community members, just because our phone system, between 8 and 9 in the morning, we were liable to get somewhere between 200 to 210 calls. And our phone system can only stack 30. So after that, it just starts going kind of haywire and kicking people out of the system. So it's a difficult, so that's one of my goals, is to try to address that. I know it's a problem, but it's really a big financial undertaking, so we're gonna use that funding that y'all don't have to send in for this payment to help get those phones back in Murfreesboro, where they're easier to.
So the state
Get
of
through.
Tennessee does not want us to send them $32,000.
That's correct.
Make a note
I'm
of
sorry if
that.
I didn't explain
Make
that
a note
well.
of that, there's nothing on your minutes there, that the state does not want the money.
But
Who knew?
And we've actually done this before. I think when we were doing the Smyrna building, not this last time because that was federal money, but the time before, we withheld, you all didn't send 2 payments in, and that went towards that Smyrna building. So they've done this kind of thing before. I hope I explained it well, but yeah.
What's the cost, you know, what the cost of replacing that phone system will be?
Well, so we have an appointment, January, it takes a while, this is a process, with the Black Box representative, so he's going to come and analyze what, that's who has the contract, analyze what we have and see if we can just Band-Aid it and make it better, or if we need a whole new system, or what. But that's where we're.
How old is that system? Did you say? Do we?
When we moved in, we had a different system, and I think it was maybe 3 years after we moved in. We've been there 11 years, so. So you can imagine, you know how our
Yeah, it's
population has
still getting
grown
more,
in that 10 years, so you can imagine that the phone system, and even when we first got it, it really just didn't seem to be good enough for what, it's just so hard to answer all the phone calls and to give each person who's on the phone the attention they need. You know, that's the hard part. And when it will only stack a certain amount of calls. And then, of course, I've only got a few women who are, you know, able to answer the phone that aren't dealing with clients right in front of them.
Similar system to what was happening, a similar situations to what was happening at calls.
Right. And I told her today, some of those components we're putting in that the system might be usable by her, you know, for
Right.
record keeping and et cetera.
The tracking.
So we're gonna let Brian and his team be with them when they evaluate this.
Good.
Very good.
System. Yeah, so that we can, because hopefully we can share that little extra piece of equipment that they bought for the tracking and giving you data.
Sounds like the system is beginning to crash, and it pretty much had crashed out at pause, and
Right.
so we're taking care of our dogs and cats, and now we're gonna take care of our people. It's probably maybe the horse before the cart. I'm not sure. But that's a good deal.
But no cost for you this time.
Any further questions? If not, I need a motion to approve these 3 grants.
So moved.
Ms. Cook, thank you. A second, and that was Commissioner Soriano. And you need to call the roll, I believe, because we got money involved, that I remembered.
Commissioner Allen,
Aye.
Commissioner Cook,
Yes.
Commissioner Phillips,
Aye.
Commissioner Sereno,
Yes.
Commissioner Turner,
Yes.
Commissioner Jordan.
Yes. Ms. Garrett, I see, I
One
know
more
you have
thing.
another piece of paper
One
on there. I know you do. I got it right here.
Okay, so it's exciting news. So we've been working, the state chose myself to go through this training called Performance Excellence through the Tennessee Center for Performance Excellence. Any of you who maybe work in manufacturing, this all started with something called the Malcolm Baldrige Award. And it was a process where you just try to look at each of your processes, what you're doing, and how can you improve it, and how can you make it more streamlined and more efficient. And just actually just labeling or knowing what all your processes are is kind of huge, just figuring that part out. And why do you do what you do, and is it a law that you do that, or is it a policy, or is there a reason that you do this? So they sent me through this training to be what's called an examiner. And basically it's a lot of extra work to try to learn the criteria that you use when you are trying to improve performance. And part of what I had to do was go to other companies and go through their system and kind of rate them and give them advice on how they can improve. And in that process, you learn how to improve yourself. So that's like phase 1. Then the second phase is our commissioner wanted the ones who had been through this training to be the first 10 health departments in the state to go through the award process yourself. So actually, instead of grading, being the student. And so I went from being the grader to now we're the student, and we have applied, and we were just notified today that we won level 1. There's 4 levels in it. Level 1's the first, and we were awarded that. We'll be getting a formal award in the end of February. They come and do a site visit, and then they give us a detailed report on, they're looking at our processes per the way we say they are, and they're saying you can improve here, you can improve there. So it's just all about continuous improvement and trying to make yourself, your facilities more efficient. And we're kind of doing this on many different levels through lean activities where you try to sit down and say, okay, here's an issue, phones.
Mm-hmm.
What can we do to make this better? How can we divert this? Do we need this? Do we need that? And so that's kind of the process of what we're doing. And the state wanted me to get Mayor Burgess and you guys on board to know that we were doing this process, and that some of that money that is sent in every year from you guys will actually be used to help go through this awards process and through the improvement process. So that's what that last letter is that I have included. just to give you up to date on some new exciting things that we're doing and how it's gonna hopefully improve performance for the health department. So, that's the most I've ever had to talk. You have any
Good.
questions?
Any questions for her? Ms. Garrett, thank you very much.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
You're doing a good job.
Thank you, Ms. Good.
Ms. Jolly, come forward and explain this school building program status report to us, please. Good evening.
We had several amendments in the December meeting, and so I trued up all the line items within each of these budgets. And also I made the transfer from Stewart's Creek, the 85,000 over to Smyrna Primary. So some of those totals have changed, those amended budgets changed by that 85,000. I changed today on the page 1 where I tell what the construction complete percentages are. Blackman Middle's construction complete is 13.53%, and the Smyrna Primary Edition is 4.13%. I didn't have those figures when I did the report. And then that's about it.
While we await questions, the public generally needs to know, I think, that we receive copies of many of these reports ahead of time and can read and formulate questions if we have any. And this particular report we've had for a couple of weeks now, or 10 days, something like that. Are there any questions for Ms. Jolly?
Oh, construction complete. Do we have any more big bills coming in on Stewart's Creek and on Eagleville?
Not on Eagleville. But I think we're saving the money in Eagleville for the phase one.
Phase
'Cause
one?
that's- Yeah,
Mhm. Well, I was noticing 100% here, that's what I was,
yeah. That
in
just-
97 and 94.
Yeah, I do that percentage based on how much the project was and how much we,
Yeah.
paid.
Still could be some outstanding
Mhm.
bills,
That's-
though.
mhm.
Yeah, that's why I was asking, because it's 97, almost 98%, and we got 340,000, and that's why I was asking.
And we're still spending, like, we pay bills twice a month, and so we're still spending out of there.
Okay, okay.
You can sort of look on page 2. On Stewart's Creek High School, I believe, where 340,000 is not obligated, but out of that 982, about $600,000 is yet to be paid of
Mhm.
contracts that are already in place.
If we have further questions from Ms. Jolly, now would be a good time to ask them. If not, we can, actual financial questions, we can talk to Mr. Sandvig in a few minutes. He's eager to have input, I can tell by his body language there. I need a motion to approve the report, please.
Motion to approve is presented.
Thank you, Commissioner Allen. A second?
Second.
Commissioner Turner? Any discussion? If not, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And opposed, there is none, of course. Ms. Jolly, thank you.
I was out at Stewart's Creek High School for their awards banquet the other night, and the parents are really, really proud of that school.
No question. And I can certainly see why. Come up, gentlemen. Director Odom and Finance Director Jeff Sandick with us tonight. Always glad to see you, gentlemen, and I see you have some amendments, and you also have some material, don't you?
Have a report and some amendments. You want to do the amendments first?
Yes, sir, please.
Okay.
Would you like me to address?
Yes,
some
sir,
of the questions
please.
that were raised
That's a good
about the
idea.
program?
Mr. Sandick, thank you. Generally speaking, I guess we kind of, like a brief update on Stewart's Creek, and then maybe something on Blackman Middle and Smyrna Primary as well, whatever you'd like.
Well, just what we do,
We've got it done this way.
the first year that a school is open, the librarians are still ordering materials for the library and the media center. And then the technology folks are still ordering technology equipment, but on a smaller
That's
scale,
what I
so.
was thinking about.
Yeah, and then we will also, sometimes we wind up, we'll probably still have a little money in some of the construction lines, because occasionally we come upon something, a late change order and all in this first year. But by the end of the year, this fiscal year, Stewart's Creek High should be finished up, maybe not ready to totally clean it up. But, same thing for Blackman Middle, there'll be some carryover, Smyrna Primary, even with it just an addition. There will be expenditures that we'll need to make in that first year of operation.
We're gonna be in those two places on time, do you think? We always are, but
The Blackman issue is, it's so cold, they cannot lay the blocks.
Right.
So we are behind, without a doubt there. And that even occurred back during the winter break in the December, when it got cold there. So it's stopped. Basically, the idea was to really have the roof on it by early in February, but that's not gonna happen, I don't think, right now.
I was told that Smyrna Primary, the portables were moved, the lamb was
Yes.
ready, of course, it's flat anyway, and electrician had already been in there at night working, so that sounds good. I imagine they're very excited.
They are.
Yeah. Okay, you have some amendments first,
Yes, sir.
Stan Vigor, Mr. Odom, what everyone's gonna do
We
it, take
have
it away. We'll
three
just,
amendments.
take all four of them at the end, if that's all right with everyone. If there's objection, say so when we get to the end, and we'll vote separately.
All right. The first amendment is for miscellaneous revenues and expenditures. It adds a total of $243,464 in expenditures to the 2013-14 general purpose school budget. It includes $231,385 in additional revenues and takes $12,079 from unassigned fund balance. We had some grant funds that were not expended last fiscal year. 4 different issues are covered. The first, the $12,079, is money that was left last June from the Jennings and Rebecca Jones Foundation grant for professional development for the Spectrum teachers. The second item, and most years we get some of this, we are getting an extra $225,376 in special ed funds. It's flow-through federal money that we get through the state based on our high-cost special ed students that we had last year. I try to be conservative in budgeting that number, and we have to budget those funds for special ed students in function 71-200 regular special ed and 72-220 the special education program. There is a $46,759 other wages and salaries to cover a technology position that we have had to move from our IDEA federal funds because of sequestration. But that is the only position this fiscal year we're going to have to move. The third item is $6,009 in insurance recovery funds for a maintenance vehicle that we'll use to help buy another maintenance vehicle. Yeah, and our vocational coordinator is preparing to retire, and her administrative assistant now has moved. We are asking to reallocate $17,484 from the assistant's salary and transfer $49,788 from vocational education, function 71-300 teachers, to function 72-230 to fund the replacement person through the end of the year. We're not filling the clerical position, but this position works a lot with the state, pursues grants and all that, and we think we need kind of a long transition time there. So our recommended motion is to amend 12,079 from unassigned fund balance to Spectrum Professional Development, to amend $22,376 into account 47-143 Education of Handicapped -IDEA and the related special education expenditures, to amend $6,009 in insurance recovery funds and the related expenditure for a maintenance vehicle, and to amend function 72-230 vocational education program and 71-300 vocational education in order to cover the replacement position as presented.
Okay, I have to ask this question, in line 2 under recommended motion, that's 225,000, right? Not
Yes, sir.
22,000. Okay, you said 22,000,
I'm
which is
sorry
fine.
about that.
I just want to make sure that
Yes,
one of
it
the
is.
figures was right.
Right.
Okay. Questions from anyone on miscellaneous revenues and expenditures?
Undesignated fund balance is your undesignated fund balance.
We'll take it from County Jail.
You want me to ask that again?
Yes, it is yours. Ours.
It is.
Yeah.
Other questions?
Move to approve.
Okay, you want to do these individually? That's fine.
Don't care.
Well, since he's moved to approve, I need a second.
Second.
Lots of seconds from the other end. Go with Commissioner Turner. Any other discussion on number 1? If not, we need to call the roll.
Commissioner Allen?
Aye.
Commissioner Cook?
Aye.
Commissioner Phillips?
Aye.
Commissioner Sereno?
Yes.
Commissioner Turner?
Yes.
Commissioner Jordan?
Yes. Number 2, Mr. Sandy.
Number 2 is a classified staff amendment. It reallocates $5,770 in already budgeted classified staff pay and benefits, $4,795 in pay, $975 in benefits, to cover line items where the replacement staff have more experience than the staff in place when the budget was prepared in early 2013. No new positions are involved. We're using it toward vocational clerks who are in the school, guidance clerks who are in the schools, and alternative school staff, which is secretaries and custodians. Recommended a motion to amend $5,770 in already budgeted classified staff pay and benefits to cover other classified staff budget line items where replacement staff have more experience than the staff in place when the budget was prepared.
Questions? Like a motion, please.
So moved.
Ms. Cook? Was that Ms. Allen down there? Yes, Ms. Allen seconded. Any discussion? All in favor, please say, no, you got to call the roll. Oh, sorry. Well, it was close, wasn't it? That's not an official forgetting, though. It's not official. I didn't get all the way through it.
I don't know, you caught it. Commissioner Allen?
Aye.
Commissioner Cook?
Aye.
Commissioner Phillips?
Aye.
Commissioner Sereno?
Yes.
Commissioner Turner?
Yes.
Commissioner Jordan?
Yes. Number 3, Mr. Sandy.
Y'all may remember Mr. Odom mentioning last year in the budget process, we did not know what was going to happen with our student attendance system. We knew it was changing. We could have put, what would you say, anywhere from $250,000 to over $1 million in the budget. We did not know. It's turned out better than that. This amendment funds $40,800 for data conversion and $13,000 in training costs for our new student management system. STI, Software Technology Inc., was one of the approved vendors who replied to the state's RFP.
They actually had 5, and we've chosen the one that was the cheapest, basically, and we thought it was the best, really.
Yeah. So we aren't requesting any new funds. We will be able to fund this expenditure with savings from 3 already budgeted line items. These funds are available because of late changes in our E-rate reimbursements and savings in postage. Communication, Director of Schools, $20,000. Postal charges, $10,000. and Communication Office of the Principal, $23,800, for that total of $53,800. Our recommended motion is to amend $53,800 from already budgeted communication and postal charges to contracted services for attendance in order to fund the data conversion and training costs for our new attendance system as presented.
Let me, if I could say something about why we have to convert. We do transcripts for students, and they come back for several years and say, this company's offered to take all of our old STAR student data and transfer it over to the new system so that you can still generate transcripts for people, that sort of thing when they lose it. So, which was really good. They offered to do more than anybody else. So you have to do, and then in the data conversion, even though it's a state system, there's some differences in it, but they'll take what has been the old Pearson system, which is the STAR system is owned by Pearson, and convert it to STI. STI actually has the whole state of Alabama and some in Kentucky and several others. So it's a very large company too. But the state spent months actually vetting a number of vendors and got it down to 5 ones that they would recommend. Of course, this is how we earn our money. You know, you have to do your ADM, your ADAs, all of that, the online reporting that you have to do, so you don't have an option with this. And the process now is training those 40 operators in 46 schools to be able to enter and work with the data, do the student scheduling, and all the reporting that goes with that. It is costing us some more. It's another one of those things that the state has done. Before in STAR, we did pay some for some direct communication, direct service or support. This one, the state is paying, is it $265 per student? $255, $265, somewhere in that
Right.
range per student. Although the bid for all of them, we picked the cheapest, is more than that. So we are gonna have to pick up some costs per student ADM, but there's no option. It's another one of those things that the state's requiring that we have to cover.
And in the 2014-15 budget, I am building in between 55 and 60,000 is my recollection for that higher cost that we will have in next year's budget. But we really were thinking in terms of maybe $250,000 additional annual expense.
Are you saying this is the total cost?
For the data and the conversion.
What's
All
the
we have,
Total cost?
it's a little over $1 per student,
Yeah, it's
maybe
$1 and something per student. So
$1.25.
the state's covering it. The state is also providing the server to house the data. In fact, if you don't let them house the data, they'll not pay you their $2.55,
Yeah.
65 cents per student. I don't know where that comes from.
Yeah.
But, so we're doing all of the advantages we can in that. I think parents will like it, the parent portal to let them tap into how their students doing with the grading and all is more robust in this one. Principals will be able to go around the building and if you see a student, Johnny in the hall, you can really check that student's record and that sort of thing from your iPhone or pad or something like that. So it's really it took an old system and update to where we are today, totally web-based.
Further questions on number 3? If not, need a motion to approve.
So moved.
Ms. Cook, thank you. A second?
Second.
Mr. Soriano, thank you. Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Allen?
Aye.
Commissioner Cook?
Aye.
Commissioner Phillips? Commissioner Sereno?
Yes.
Commissioner Turner?
Yes.
Mr. Jordan?
Yes, I think I said there were 4 amendments, and there obviously are not. There are 3. And I apologize for that piece of misinformation. But Mr. Odom has some more material, and he wants to share various things with the committee, and I think we're ready.
You got one if you'll pass it with him, will do. The good news is I'm not here tonight to ask for money. How about that? Come back
That's next month, right?
Come back next month. But I want to share with you tonight, we're going to share with you the fact book. You are actually the first group, Mayor, I don't know if you have one of these too. No. You're the first group that we've shared this fact book. We do one in January every year in 2014. I think it's in January for each year, and I think it's very important for you. Did everybody get one?
Yeah, I think we had a couple left over.
Okay, that's good. you have to, as we ask for amendments and funding, you obviously have to make a decision on it, and you're critical to us, but you also have to answer to your constituents. And so providing you with a fact book and information allows you to respond to your constituents and also better decide for yourself some of your positions. If you're into the little QR readers at the back, if you really want to read it, you can put it in your iPad and keep it for every day. But anyway, that connection that we do. But I am not going to read to you today, I promise you that.
This Cook's on the cover of the book. We can have autographs.
I know,
for you.
that's
There's some others on there too.
Yeah, but you're the
Stuart
important
Creek
one, Ms. Cook.
So I'm going to point out a few little things that I would like to this evening to point out to you without reading to you, because you can do that yourself. Of course, page 3 is our school board, and they did work Tennessee School Board of the Year this year, so they worked very hard to get that. We're very proud of them, and that's an accolade to them and to Rutherford County as a whole. If you look at page 4, I'm going to just speak briefly to the demographics and give you some comparative statistics that's not on this particular sheet. We are the 6th largest school district in Tennessee now. With and the numbers that you're seeing here with the at the bottom, 2012-13, we pull some of this basically from last year because this year's not over yet, but we'll talk about that in just a moment. Actually, if you put Murfreesboro City and Rutherford County together, we do surpass Hamilton County, which is one school district. So basically here, you would be higher than the others. And we may gain one with the splitting up of the Memphis and Shelby County, since it's just Shelby County and the smaller one, so we may move up a little in that. There'll be actually more school districts in the state of Tennessee next year, but by Memphis and Shelby are not separate, and they were both larger than us. Kind of looking down through those numbers, and again, you can read for yourself. Some of the things I'll point out that's been really the change for us, one of them is limited English proficient. 5 years ago, in the report card of 2009, where we're showing now 2,265 last year, we had 1,888 in the year 2000. If you want to go back to 2000, we had 327 ELL students. We are the 3rd largest ELL population in the state. There are some districts that have a higher percentage, such as Bedford County, and that's basically Tyson's and the horse industry there. They have a higher percentage of their student population, but in numbers that we have to serve, we're 3rd largest behind Davidson County, Memphis City, and then Rutherford County. We're 3rd. And students with disabilities, and this is a very good thing to report, we do have 4,602. In the year 2000, 15.8% of our students were special ed. In 2009, 5 years ago, was 13.8%, and last year, most recently, is 11.4%. And that's happening because our teachers, our principals, our people that are working in the buildings are doing a much better job of identifying students that are behind and providing interventions for them to catch them up before they actually become special education students. Because for a student to be learning disabled, they had to have that 2 standard deviations away from where they should have been based upon their IQ and that sort of thing. Now the problem with that is, for very young children, it may take several years before they acquire that 2 standard deviation. The new thing the state will be doing, and we're going to be one of the ones jumping into that fairly quick, is called response to intervention, squared. But response to intervention is looking at students that are behind and not trying to track so much waiting until they get to a point, but intervening more quickly. This actually saves us money. When you talk about going from 15.8% down to 11.2% with the cost of special education students, that's a significant saving, and it's better for kids. So I'm really glad that we're being able to do some of that. I guess one of the changes that you have probably noticed as much as anything, and we certainly have, is in the economically disadvantaged population in Rutherford County. That's been a real change for us. We're certainly not the highest in the state, but in the year 2000, 22.7% of our students were free or reduced, 22.7. In the most recent year, you're looking at 42.1. I looked today, had the food service do it for us. It's about 42.75 or so, and that fluctuates all year long. But that number is going up quickly for us now. what does that mean typically? As your free reduced numbers go up, as that demographic changes, those children just do not have the same opportunities. And so you find yourself having to do more academic interventions, other interventions to work with these students. But you know, that's our population and that's our job. That's what we do. So, but you need to be aware of that change basically in our demographic.
Free and reduced, is that the only criteria for that,
And the federal,
based on that figure right
and the
there?
federal government sets that. You know, it's a figure that comes out, probably a figure that comes from the federal government and changes a little bit every year. I didn't bring one of those tonight. We could have brought one with that scale, but it changes a little bit. But it would be comparing us with, again, everybody else in the state. The state as a whole is a little bit higher, unless Burr City's actually a little bit higher.
I have a question on that.
Sure.
From what I understand, that's basically reported on the honor system. There's no verification.
And I'll take, there is some verification, but I'm gonna take my glasses off because I had experience with this. A few years ago when I was principal, you know, that you would like to go in and just check everybody or something where you suspect something, basically do it. The federal government will not let you do that. It must be a random check. So they will go through and tell you in the list of names, 21, 28, whatever it is, and you do that check. Those parents then have to bring in stubs, that sort of thing, to prove that. So there is some proof on it, but it's a sampling
Okay.
rather than basically everybody. If somebody has a change or something, you can ask sometimes to do that. And of course, the numbers did go up some when you saw the economy turn down about 3 years ago. That's stabilizing a little bit better now. But we don't have a lot of control over that, Ms. Allen's what I'm trying to say to you. You know, when you look back at 5 years ago or 2009, we've added 4,933 students. So that's, I mean, we are still seeing large amounts of growth. Again, flip to page 5. We're very proud of our academics.
On page 4, before you
Yes, sir,
leave that,
sure.
graduation rates.
91.9. We have been a little higher than that, but let me tell you what the feds did here. Up until 2 years ago, a special education student and an ELL student was given 5 years to graduate. I really think that was very, very good. Everybody needs a pat on the back for talking that student into staying one more year and actually earning a diploma. They took that away from us with part of the No Child Left Behind and the waiver process. And they took it away from everybody in the nation. You know, my statement to people in the state, why don't you go ask some of those congressmen if they spent 5 years going through college. If they did, under their definition, you have to finish in 4 years and 1 summer. They would be a dropout. but you know, that's the name of the game, and it's unfortunate. We're fairly successful at getting kids to come back another year. Another thing that I want you to realize that we actually are responsible for students in special ed from age 3 to age 22. We have those early finds and early identification numbers. And it's the right thing to do if they have problems with speech and that sort of thing. They don't come and stay at school all day. Most of those that are in years 3 and 4 will actually, except for the most severe, will actually come a part of a day, or their parent may bring them in for speech services, you know, language services, and we do that so that when they do actually enter kindergarten, they're more prepared to do that. So, but anyway, we have them that long. We have a number of students that will stay till they are 22, and we have a program for that, which sometime we could talk about, where we take these students and they go in and they actually, you may see them working at McDonald's or other places and that sort of thing. And we have to supervise some of that, and some businesses are very good working with us in the county to do that. And they learn home skills and other things to do that. But again, that's just some of the things we do. You know.
How does that rate compare statewide, even nationwide?
Statewide, it's a little over 50%. It's 50, maybe 55 or something like that.
Goodness
So
gracious.
free reduced is higher across Tennessee in general.
Goodness gracious. We've got 46 schools.
46 schools.
That's not counting the ones that are under construction, right?
Well, we only adding onto something now, so there's nothing under construction there. There's maybe some on the 5-year plan.
Okay, yeah, like the Blackman isn't, you count it as an addition, right? Not a new
Right,
school?
It is not a new school. And we're gonna have that, and one of the pages in here is you wanna, if you wanna look at it, you can bring that, go down memory lane. Because you've been here a while and you're gonna recognize that you're on each of those.
Let me ask a follow-up on that
Sure.
thing. When you gave that 52% number a second ago, that was for free and reduced. That's not the Tennessee graduation rate. What is
No.
the average Tennessee graduation rate?
It's I wanna say about 88, 87, something like that. And that has really increased dramatically over the last several years. One of the things that Rutherford County did, even when Mr. Gill was here and I was in instruction, we added graduation coaches. So we do have one person that works with students in our high schools, and they start meeting with parents and kids. They look at them in 8th grade and coming in, who's our at-risk students. Some of these people even teach mediation classes and credit and makeup classes and all. So we're becoming more and more successful at getting our students to graduate.
It's another one of those numbers like Mr. Phillips was talking about, though, that once you get to 92%, I mean, you know, it's tough.
It is tough because, I mean, if a child turns 18, you know, I mean, they can leave. That's the
Right.
bottom end. But a goodly number of those are people that just move off and you don't know where they've gone. Some of our population of students, ethnic populations of students, it's not typical in wherever they're from to go through high school. And when they get to a certain age, they have the mentality of the set that it's time to go to work and support the family. So you're always trying to overcome that and deal with that over time. But, okay. Page 5, I'm not most proud of academics and things like that, but I'll not spend a lot of time talking about that tonight. Let me go to page 6 for you again as we kind of move through this. This is a track for you from back 2001, 2002, basically through 2013-14, because we do it third month of the year, right? So that we're comparing the same month each year. That's really the best way to do it. So in 2013-14, third month, we had 41,035 students in K through 12. We literally have roughly 41,500. There's some governor's preschools, some of these other students that you're serving that are below kindergarten that you're serving, it's closer, but the ones we're funded directly from, based on ADM, 41,035, which this year at that point gave us a growth of 1,140 students in 1 year. Now, the most stringent year, you can go back up and take a look if you'd like to, at 2006 and 7. Some of you were serving on the commission at that time and remember those numbers when they came through and we were needing 2 buildings a year and that sort of thing. But this is certainly our highest number since back at 2006, 2009. I was surprised at the numbers for the last 2 years because the recession, you know, part of that was here and slowing people down, but people still came to Rutherford County. So, I mean, those numbers are, you can track it and you see, I mean, they're what they are. So when you're growing about a school a year, that's what drives much of what we do. That's something for you.
The figure that alarms me is the one that's not here in black and white, but it is here. And that is that according to your projections, there'll be 6,000 more students in the next 5 years.
You know, we're approaching again, if you look back up in those earlier years, you saw 4 and 5%. Of course, but as you go to 41,000, 2%, you know, all of a sudden, these 800 students, that's another middle school. It's more larger than most of our elementary schools. But if we do approach back to the 3 to 4%, if that trending upward starts again, like it appears to be doing, I mean, these numbers are certainly subject to change, but that's where you could be. You know, if we get up to 4% growth again, we'd be in really tough. I mean, you'd be looking at 1,700 students again per year. Budgets, all of you have dealt with that. You know our current budget in prior years. You can kind of look at that. Jeff does that. He also, on page 8, which kind of goes with that, does you one kind of that's adjusted for inflation, that sort of thing, to let you see that. Kind kind of, I guess, the things that you look at our per pupil expenditure, what we do. These are some, after Jeff adjusted them, the actual state report card for 2013, which is the last one the state's done, came out in October and November. We are actually $1,282 below the state average. And I say that because you're spending more money than that, you're building buildings. I mean, wouldn't say to anybody, any public or constituent of yours, Rutherford County values education and is supporting education. I say that to say that I think our schools are extremely efficient in how they're taking the dollars and applying them. And I think that's why we can still have some high scores at a rate that's $1,200 and something less. And again, all of that becomes sometimes, again, when you can intervene for the special education student earlier, when you can pick up on trends or things to address that. And that's been somewhat consistent over time, you know. If you go back 10 years ago or so, we've always spent a little bit less than the state average. Your high systems tends to be your Metro Nashville's, your Memphis, your Knoxville's, the things where you have very, very high poverty rates and all like that to do. So the whole state average together. Another figure that's not in here, it is on the state report card, and you can go if you'd like to do the Tennessee State Department of Education, click the report card, it's right on the front, call it up. The question that comes up to you, how much of the cost of the students that we have is local? Actually, last year is $8,010.68, $8,010.68. And of that, local funds is 39.04%, 39.04. Federal was 5.79%, and state is 55.7%. So we still get over half of our funding from the state. And that varies, you know, from district to district, because the formula, and I did see where the governor's proposing looking at formulas and sharing again, based on somewhat ability to pay, the Fox formula and what's the other one?
The TASSER.
The TASSER. There's a movement to the TASSER, maybe away from the Fox funding formula, which comes down, but 55.7%. And I throw this figure out to you for your information. If we spend $8,010 and 39% is local, each student is costing us in local numbers about $3,127, roughly. And so I hear so many times, and I know you too, growth will pay for itself. I don't know the exact, for a house, probably somewhere between $800 and $1,200 is what we're seeing, lots of starter homes. And all.
And apartments.
And apartments, a situation. So it takes roughly 3 houses or so to cover, if they have one child, to pay that $3,000 in local funds. So it's very important that our people in Rutherford County shop in Rutherford County. You know, so their sales tax dollars, the other things that you do are very critical to us as a school system and to you to do that. So growth by itself almost never pays for itself. I mean, that's roughly because of the cost of the student. Even at $3,000 is just a portion of that $8,000. So, I mean, that's just information.
Would you give me
for
those
you.
percentages again?
The percentages are 39.04 local, and they changes every year. Federal's 5.79, and state is 55.7%.
Thank you.
I probably should have brought you that page. Page 9 gives you some information. How many employees basically do we have now? And this includes part-time too, right?
Yes, sir.
It does. 5,051, basically. About 235 administrators, 10-month certified, 3,100, 10 to 12-month classified, about 1,716. So that's kind of about how many people we have working in for or with Rutherford County Schools. Which I don't know, we're probably, we may be the second largest employer or close to it, wouldn't it, behind Nissan?
That lady right there knows. Ms. Nolan, who's the largest employer? Us?
Be Rutherford.
Nissan?
Lisa, did you get a copy of all this?
Yeah, I grabbed it.
Okay.
I grabbed it. It's like 1, 2, 3.
Okay? But anyway, and for your memory lane walk, you know, is pages 10 and 11. It goes back to 1982, and you can see the additions, building program, what we've done. At the very top on page 10, we are in the middle of Blackman Middle Annex now. That's the current. You've approved that one. The Smyrna Primary Edition is being done for that. And we'll bring back to you, I'm sure, in February. Our board has approved the Eagleville edition, and we'll do some of those arguments at that time. We're looking at ways to add on to buildings everywhere we can. That certainly makes for some large campuses, but it's a little cheaper if your core facilities will handle it. In cases where your cafeteria or your other core facilities do not, then the cost per pupil does get higher. Sometimes it's easier to go out and bill. So again, you can kind of see, you know, we do the 2-year and we do try to project out in 5 years. I will have to say, I think if we can do the Eagleville, hopefully the high school we can not have to do as quickly. I mean, it's about students and classrooms and space. We will have, you will see Stewart's Creek grow over the next 2 years. And I'll talk a little bit about that on this sheet. But I think most of the rest of the things, I'll just kind of leave for you to read. This is, again, dealing with building programs, energy cost, green, that sort of thing. Interestingly, the other night, I don't know whether you might have got a chance to watch the board, but our food service now, we've gone away from styrofoam. We're totally green. You know, it's decomposes within 120 days. I did hear the people in Williamson County said, "How did that happen? Rutherford County beat us." But we did. You know, and I have to thank our people, Mr. Fred, over in that department and all to do it. So you've got, I think, something coming up. We have a school that's won a prize, a statewide prize for that. That's coming to a commission meeting with that. So we're very conscious of trying to also be green. Energy savings now with our metal roofs, our geothermal, that sort of thing. Our maintenance department did such a good job that he was hearing all these other counties in the cold spells with things were freezing and all these issues. They did so much work ahead of time in preparing. That doesn't just happen. I told Mr. Clardy and his people there, you know, they were on top of it and followed through it very, very quickly. So I'm very proud of them, you know, and this is a district, because that saves taxpayers money. Very briefly, I provided you this, I think, when we were at Community Care. This is the 4th month, the 5th month, because we've had 3 snow days and all. It really doesn't end to this week. It'll take us about a week to compile it. So this is through the 4th month. The yellow copy at the far right, percent change. Any school that grew by 4%.
Excuse me just a second.
You need,
Yes.
we need those?
Yes,
Okay, yeah,
please.
absolutely. Let's make sure that at
Thank
least you have one.
Everybody have
They can
this
get one.
copy?
I'm sorry. I apologize for not doing that.
Thank you.
Just kind of lets you see where the schools grew. Many of the ones that you see a negative growth there are related to the fact that we had Stewart's Creek High School and we zoned students out. They're going to Stewart's Creek High. We did do some grandfathering. You're going to see Stewart's Creek High, Josh, from expiring grandfathers jump a couple of hundred or more per year. But this goes through, as a date shows, through 12/12/13. I do want to point out to you, because the middle school and those issues related to that, in lighter yellow colors, there's a column called K 1 to 12, and C is comprehensive ungraded special education. That's what it basically is. And so when you put that together, you can see the schools where we're looking at very quickly. Blackman Middle, 1159 at the end of that 4th month, and it grew by 74 last year, 74 students, which is, again, about 25 per classroom. You're 3 classrooms there. We saw Christiana Middle grow, is now 891. It grew by 69, or up 8.4%. Looking at that, looking at another middle school, if you look down, and the one that we're looking in is, of course, Oakland Middle, 1100. The other night I asked her, since this was the 12th, she said they have 1107 now. So that area is still continuing to grow. But we're in the process, and the board will be doing public hearings for it. Is it the 12th of, it's on our website, I think of February, for the public, and we are rezoning, looking at Oakland Middle, Whitworth Buchanan to utilize that one, and Christiana. So, excuse me, we'll be doing some rezoning and shifting of students to try to cover some of that. Although it did frighten us somewhat when we saw all of the areas that had been approved in the Whitworth Buchanan area kind of over the winter break in December and early January. The 11th of February at Whitworth Buchanan School. We'll be having that public hearing. Rockville Middle is 983. He grew by 102 in 1 year. That's 11.6%. So I think, and I talked to him today, it stopped for a while, kind of in that corridor going out towards the Rockville area. There's really many plats approved. We track that, so Mr. Morgan, our planner, tracks that for us. But the funding kind of stopped, the banks stopped, and so lots of approved areas, but it's beginning to open up again too. So you're going to see growth from the Blackman out through the Rockville area again. But that was a large amount of growth for them. Siegel Middle again, 1,054 right now, 51 growth. Stewart's Creek Middle, 894, 54 growth. We've got to leave some capacity there. That is going to take off right away. And again, Whitworth Buchanan at 743. Our projected numbers for them is like on our zoning is 840 something, with the zoning complete, which would to start for next year, about 34 there. The point I want to make to you, of the 46 schools, 17 of those grew by more than 4% last year. So, I mean, that's what we're looking at. So that has not, our growth is beginning to pick up again. It's not stopped. And of course, as a school district, we tend to have to be reactionary to that. But other questions? Again, I don't want to take up too much of your time this evening.
I think we discussed this briefly at a community care, and some of these numbers, because I remember saying then, I think I said what I'm going to say now, and that is that the growth at Christiana Middle and Rockville Middle would indicate to me why you're concerned about the Eagleville project, which I notice is number 1 on your list here.
It is. If we can, and I'll say this now, and I'll repeat myself again, probably when we come back in February, with our addition at Blackman, with that 6th grade addition, complete that up. If we can complete the addition and the extra capacity at Eagleville, then hopefully kind of in that corridor we can begin to manage some of those student numbers, some of those middle school numbers in that particular area. We are looking at, as the mayor asked me before I got up here, we're looking at ways to add to other middle schools also. So not showing on this 5-year building plan, but it's going on in the background, is what other middle schools could we do something similar to Blackman and add to? One of our problem is sometimes property. Is there enough to add that, still maintain what the state requires as property? And in the cases where we have Rockville Middle and we have Whitworth Buchanan Middle, I think the board and you wisely purchased enough property for the high school and a middle school, and the pads are down to save cost over the long run. The issue then becomes, if we go back and add a large addition to the middle school, what does that do with your total acreage for the two? And that's what we're having to weigh. And so, you can look at Oakland Middle and you don't see additional property there with a ball field behind. There's so many places that our game is beginning to change we did not anticipate. Going back and looking at 1,400 student middle schools. We still have the 148, 49 portables, roughly $65,000 for a double wide setup and all to do that. I just really hate to recommend the portable. So we will come back and talk to you about ways that we can try to manage this as effectively and efficiently as we can. But we'll need your support. And that's why I want you to ask questions. I want you to have the fact book. I'm as transparent as I know how to be. I'm giving you actual numbers of students the day that we turned in for the state for funding, so that you know what we're looking at and what your school board's looking at.
What about language? Do we have a big language problem?
You know, I haven't asked them recently. I know the last time I asked them, we have probably 60-something different languages. It was 66 or so, and my guess is it's probably over 70 now.
Chamber of Commerce had told me that Laverne had over 40 languages
I don't-
3 or 4 years ago.
Don't doubt that.
And
Don't doubt that at all.
I know I worked a booth out there and I got shocked at some of the language. I mean, no,
Um,
you know, the different languages.
Tennessee has a law that students receive instruction in English. I've attended a meeting yesterday talking about the new Common Core assessments and all coming up. These kids gonna have to take the English version. I mean, that's a requirement. So, the first year of these students coming in, they're exempt from the English Language Arts assessment. The second year they have to take it. They have to take the math the first year and the science and the social studies, but they have to switch very quickly to English. You know, I'll have to say our ESL people are very, very effective. But again, being the third largest in the state, we have a lot of people dedicated to working with these students to do that. We've got some students that come in really, some of the ones that are coming in now are in your areas, from caring students are really from Burma. They've been in refugee camps in Thailand for a number of years. These are good kids. They're not discipline problems. They're not other issues. They just haven't been to school, and sometimes 3 or 4 years, and some of those are coming in high school. And that's what hurts me to say, 4 years in one summer, you've got to graduate. That's not best for the kid or best for this nation. So that, I'll get off my soapbox. But you know, really, if they're gonna be a citizen and be in our nation, I want them to learn English, and I want us to be effective at doing that.
You just might need more than 4 years in one summer to do it.
You do, but shouldn't everybody get a pat on the back as long as we can hang on and get that done?
Right.
We come out ahead. You're not having to pay all those other costs later on down the road.
I don't really totally understand why the years really matter, as long as a person is really, I mean, I went to school at Central High School there were 3 or 4 guys there that came back after the Navy, and we're going to school there.
Whatever year you start high school, the clock starts. If you go off and come back, you're not going, I mean, you'll be counted as a dropout or whatever it is. And in the terms of you're not a graduate, you're not an on-time graduate for the percentage. It's just wrong.
Yeah, that's a flawed way to
It's
look at
just
it.
wrong.
Yeah.
I've talked to others, and you mentioned Burma and other nations, but we got people in here from Hurricane Katrina and Hurricane Ivan, and
Stayed with
spent
us.
a year or two catching them up to grade level. And that was I dare say that was probably every school in Rutherford County had somebody. They were everywhere for a while there, including basketball star Olivia Jones at Middle Tennessee right now. She went to Rockvale her last year. She's here from Hurricane. Olivia won't appreciate me mentioning her maybe, but you know, I think she was pretty close to grade level. I think she was in pretty good shape, but not all of them were.
I don't know how much more information you could get on this report, but the one thing is, as I'm reading it that I'm curious about is when I see those yellows and I see a lot of those numbers, I know you're pushing the limit at those schools. And so it's almost like that's the caution light. I want to see some red. It's like, which ones are your red? You
I
know?
would have to bring you the list of portables and where
Yeah.
they're located. And you
Yeah.
know that from Smyrna Primary.
Yeah.
And, again, the date of your building, your total capacity of your building, but again, for those 148 or so portables out there is why that you have that. And a lot of our areas that were supposed to be used for other things, teacher work areas or other things, are classrooms. You know,
Right.
as I talked to Mr. Barlow today at Rockville Middle, he said, I got one guy left and he knows he's gonna be moving. He just doesn't know where, and I do not know where. He said, I'm probably gonna have to request portables next year. And I know he will if he gets any growth, anything like that. Cause the fine for being oversized classes, you know, is $55,000 per class or so, basically, what you're looking at, so.
At the rate of apartments that I'm seeing come in on the north end of the county, I'm really concerned.
I listened to that argument, and one of the arguments was the number of students per apartment is typically not as high a ratio as a home. But if you stack up the apartments, 2 and 3 high, then all of a sudden the land occupied can be equivalent of 2 to 3 houses, so.
Listen, I got behind a school bus the other day, and the kids got off at one of them, and I started counting them. I'm not kidding. It's scary.
Bus load a lot of times.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, and one other thing that we'll have to look at when we're talking about the next high school, between Siegel and Stewart's Creek High, we did a lot of additions. We have
They're shut-
probably
they're in this
limited
room.
ourselves on additions to those.
To those schools.
The core capacity won't support another addition if we have the land.
A year ago, Blackman High was the largest high school in Tennessee, number-wise, student
Yeah.
number.
The Blackman was.
And we know we don't want that. We know we don't want mega schools. We've tried to maybe, prevent that.
I assume we can expect your appearance next month.
Vicky put us on the agenda.
I appreciate this, and I can tell by looking at the committee that they appreciate it too. This is most helpful.
Yep.
Well, you're the first with you've actually seen it before our school board is. I may be in trouble, although they've looked at all of these numbers prior to this. It's just collected.
It's interesting to see how much money we have spent.
It is, and where you have built, but it lets you know.
I just wish the public could see all of this that we have seen and they could recognize where their money is.
Jobs and schools are drawing people to Rutherford County.
We're-
Ask your realtors,
I was
ask
actually-
your groups that's recruiting people, and that's what they're doing.
We
Well, I was
are a
actually
very
thinking-
diversified county,
Yes.
and that draws people too.
I was thinking that when you were talking earlier about, you were surprised at the increase. We keep hearing that the unemployment rate in Rutherford County, is low compared to a lot of other areas. And so that's kind of what I was already thinking, is that the unemployment rate here compared to other places probably does drive that number up. It'd be interesting to kind of see those two trend together.
Since we're on television, I had a conversation with Paul Latour in the Chamber of Commerce. I said, can we recruit some that would be more expensive housing, maybe not as many kids per household and that sort of thing. And basically, he said, where Williamson County and some others are having on us, some developers are going out and actually building speculative buildings to house corporate headquarters. And so far in Rutherford County, we haven't had people that would go out, because he said it might sit for 2 to 3 years. But I think Rutherford County would be prime for some corporate headquarters, but no one has taken the step to speculate and build a building that would allow you to recruit a corporate headquarters. So
Well, the other
that's
part,
where we are. We're starter homes and
Yeah.
hire families.
yeah, the other part to that could be the 55 and up developments, because, how many people are having to move their
Right.
parents closer to them, but mom and dad don't need a full-blown, their own house and yard and all that, so that'd be another thing. And they're not gonna consume as many services from us, and they should have more disposable income, so bring them on. And because we're supposed to be one of the best places to retire to, so,
Smyrna was
yeah, yeah.
I don't know whether that was statewide or, I don't know what that was, but they won an award for that, didn't they?
Nationwide.
Last year? Was it nationwide? It's a fine place to retire, one of the better places to retire. Ms. Stodham and Ms. Stanley, thank you both. Committee, anything else? I imagine we're going to have plenty of questions next month when we entertain whatever the school board wants to request, so.
I do have just one more question.
Yes.
And this is one of those things I know very little about, so just, humor me. I know I hear a lot of discussion about the charter schools and, what the governor's wanting versus what the law they're looking at passing. And I know that takes some funding away from us. Can you explain to me just briefly how that works, or what is in the works?
Of course, the disagreement is the mayor's original, the mayor, The governor's bill was to charter schools in the 5 largest school districts in the state of Tennessee. And it was basically for parents of students who were in schools that were failing schools, or those in the achievement school district. Rutherford County does not have any of those schools and all. There was a move again by other members of the legislature to try to set it. And last year we saw that charter school funding for maybe a family that makes up to $70,000 a year that transferring out, where that would hit you is, if you have one of those, then they come in and that gets your local and your state monies also. It doesn't mean your costs are necessarily gonna go down in doing that, but those funds would follow the students, and that's to be worked out. The voucher program, again, is very similar to that again, is what is the threshold to do that. We did have one charter application last year, which the school board rejected. They appealed to the state chartering positions. And I'll say this as director of schools, and we've had a board member say that, if a charter school can come in and provide something we're not better, then okay. I mean, I understand that. I mean, I think I can understand market driven. The application we had just did not do that. And one of the other things that I used, and I used it on the steering committee, you heard me the other night up here, when you took the virtual school that was going through Union County, you know, of 1,347 schools in the state of Tennessee, they were number 1,347. And a zero value-added gain is gaining a year of learning for a year in school. Their average score in math was minus 26.6. We can do better than that. And so as with your local boards involved and things like that, you look at things like that so that one of their jobs is to protect our citizens also, you know. So all of that will be worked out above me, of course, at the state level, but there are issues behind the rhetoric or the talk.
Excuse, I may be wrong here, and feel free to correct me, everybody else does, at least on this committee, but, and right here. But I don't believe that the charter school people even showed up to defend their application.
No, they did defend it. They did come. They brought their evidence, they brought it, yes, before, when the state board came in, which was not our people, our board had voted, they came in, they defended it. You know, they looked at things like, where's the bus transportation? Where's your plan for your free and reduced kids? Where's your plan to work with kids that are special education or ELL?
They had none of that.
And no, I mean, kind of the statement was, we'll do what Rutherford County does. Well, we know what Rutherford County does, but tell us what you're gonna do, you know? I mean, that's the bottom line. It takes.
If there are no other questions, I want to move on, but he's gonna stay with us since this involves him. Number 7 there on your agenda. We received a request from you, actually, on I believe it's May 27th is the date for our Health and Ed meeting, joint meeting with budget and with the school board and the director and Mr. Sandy as well. And they were requesting a time change, a date change, and Ms. Nolan is here, but the budget calendar is set, and it is, as you know, as all of us well know, when we get in that time frame, the dates really get tough as far as formulating the budget. And so a date change was probably impossible, but a time change, I sent everyone an email that they requested 4:30 so that Mr. Odom and any other staff members can get to the Siegel graduation, which for the first and I hope last time will be held outside the county, but it has to because the MTSU is being renovated, the Murphy Center. And anyway, he has to go to Franklin that night, and he would like an ample opportunity to discuss with us the budget. So, which is going to be about the only thing we do that night. We'll try to get everything else done the month before, the month after, as you are aware. But is there a problem with the 4:30? And we need to let Ms. Michaels know. I know it's well in advance. Did I cover that okay?
And as far as budget committee, all those members responded back to me that they were okay with the 4:30.
Well, I did hear from some of these folks too, but I said we'd discuss it tonight, and so here we are. So 4:30 is okay with them. Well, I'm sure it's okay with the school board. So if we're in good shape, we're gonna put that at 4:30 unless there's a comment. That's a major problem.
27th.
27th of May. I just put in May here, but I'm almost positive it's the 27th.
It is.
Yeah.
It is, okay. Is that fair, Mr. Odom?
Yes, sir, it is.
Okay, thank you.
Thank
I think we're about ready to go here. So if there's any new business, committee, this would be a wonderful time to bring it up. Last call. I don't see anybody looking my way.
4:30 PM, May 27th.
Okay, if not, I'll see you in February. I'm going to consider us adjourned. Thank you so much.